What's up, my friend? There is so many cool new artificial intelligence-based motion graphics and video things that I want to talk about. Pica Labs has introduced a new image to video module that people are just freaking out about. You know the control net that lets you have fine-grained control over images? It's now got a new brother called ControlVideo. Ebsynth is a tool that can take any video and turn it into a motion painting. There's a new AI technology that allows you to follow somebody with a camera, and then in post, you can change the camera angle to angles that never were captured in the first place. And even Marvel is now using low-end, cheap text-to-video stuff that's kind of ruining their shows. But the single most impressive AI tech that I've seen in a long time is an artificial intelligent model that uses the best of upscaling, meaning it can take a low-quality image model and make it much more clear and crisp as it gets bigger, and combines that with a model that's trained on what is reflected in your eye when you take a photograph. Now, if that doesn't make immediate sense to you, think about what is actually reflected on your eye when you take a photograph. The environment behind the camera that nobody ever took a photo of. You know, it's not exactly a mirror, but the eye has some mirror-like properties. In fact, enough that new artificial intelligence can actually pick up on them and recreate the objects and environment in front of you, which is also behind the camera, and stuff that people who took photos never thought was going to be seen. And even though that idea seems like science fiction, this is what's possible right now. So this research paper, which is getting a little bit of attention, but not nearly as much as it should for how much I think it's gonna change the game, is called Seeing the World Through Your Eyes. And the researchers trained just on the eyeball of different photographs to then interpolate what's behind the camera. So the paper focuses on whenever you see a photo with a human face in it, it crops just into the eyes and it looks at that data alone. So then using similar upscaling and what they call NERF technology, which is a neural radiance field where you can kind of create more of a 3D object than is actually there, they end up with these. Now, although these images are a little blurry, they have depth to them and they can be associated with real objects. So the researchers say there's two big challenges that they were looking to overcome in this research paper. Now, the first one is it's difficult to figure out the position of the eyes, because if you think about moving my head just a little bit in any direction, that's going to change what you see reflected back onto my eye. And then the second is the neural network has trouble identifying what the actual colors and patterns of the eye are and what the colors and patterns of the reflection are. It'd be easier if our eyes were mirrors, but they're just a little bit reflective. So to solve the first problem, they fine-tune an artificial intelligence model for the position of the cornea, which is the outer layer of the eye. And then visual descriptions of anything that could be reflected in the eye and visual descriptions of what eyes look like without any reflection, so they can separate the two. So we can pull that information out and not display it as part of the reflected environment. They found that there's a reasonable amount of accuracy that you can get when you try to predict an environment from just looking at somebody's eyes. Look at these examples. Do you know how much more information about the past we're probably going to get from something like this? You take an old photograph of like President Lincoln or something, and then you reflect back what the crowd looked like or what the environment looked like, and we can learn about that time frame. Spying, espionage, personal investigation. It's also a bit of a privacy concern, but it's just incredible that this is even possible. This flowchart kind of explains how first you need to calculate the angle, then you got to see how the room could be reflected, and how there's sort of the two paths that the machine learning is taking, both to understand what the iris is and what the reflective data is and how it comes together at the end. Joint optimization of radius field and iris texture. This is awesome and crazy and scary and cool. The future is now. So look, we can zoom in and then you can see Kirby and some of the objects that are sitting there in the room with him, right? But also the way you can move and tilt the camera around, that's the radiance field, because it's understanding something about the depth of the room and how things would move in proportion. Actually, a better example right below it is where you can see the counter and how the things that are more in the foreground actually move more in ratio. This is classic NERF stuff. We might have a record of all the photographers who ever took a photo of someone else. Here they're using music videos from Miley Cyrus and Lady Gaga to try to figure out what the set looked like that they were filming on. And look, they say that they observe in Lady Gaga's eyes what looks like an upper body, which is probably, you know, some person with a camera right there just filming her. But I've still got more that's gonna blow your mind. I'm not kidding. So a new tool came out called Pica Labs. Now, not everybody gets access, but cool YouTubers like Matt Provid, because he has a lot more followers than me, got access to this cool, super secret Discord, was able to show just how impressive some of these image to video models are looking. So this Pica Labs tool is a little bit different than like Gen 2 from Runway ML, because you don't type what you want to see. You do generate the photo somewhere else, maybe Midjourney or a photo of yours, and then you upload it and animate it. Like in this case, it had to realize what the cape was, right? See how the cape's floating in the wind? That was really impressive. So right now the interface, just like Midjourney, is inside of Discord, but once you upload a photo as a starting point and then a description of how it should be animated, these are the kind of examples you can get. So this is riding a bike in the middle of a rainstorm. Woman relaxing, light breeze. I can see your eyes moving and the wind moving all the things that it should. It's pretty cool. Okay, playing a steampunk piano. I mean, it's pretty cool. Like, you can definitely see the hand sort of wonking out there and everything, but you know, like, this is coming along. Now, out of everything that MadVid Pro showed, I think this was the craziest. This was Zuckerberg, Elon Musk dance off. I mean, the legs and the arms and stuff, although they sometimes come in and out of existence, they kind of like move like a dancer might, and the leg, like, it's so weird to look at this stuff, but it's just kind of captivating too. It's definitely unique. Like, it might not be like fully fleshed out video like we would kind of imagine, but it's definitely not a photo. We have moved down that spectrum. Smash that subscribe button. So this new paper tackles creating multiple views from a single camera with multiple frames. So NERF, the ability to take these 2D images and stitch them together into a 3D object, that is something that, even though we've made progress on, has struggled with long form sequential photos that like you'd get from a video. But this paper introduces a new method to kind of keep that stuff all glued together in a realistic way. So the new method they came up with is called Learned Motion Trajectory Field. And the goal here is what they call temporal consistency over time. And the way they do that is through something called cross-time rendering. I interpret this part as previous methods were using the entire weights and biases of the neural network to keep track of all this stuff, and their new approach aggregates, basically groups together frames that seem like they're so similar that you can just generalize them, just saving overall space and making the whole thing move faster and smoother. But the wow factor is right here. Look, the proof is in the pudding. Like, the way the camera's sort of wiggling around the object, that didn't happen. It's creating all that. It's rendering all of that data. And to give you some insight into how that works, this is a depth map, meaning the darker part of the image is further away than the brighter part. But the camera had to figure that out. The machine learning is picking up on patterns of depth just from understanding what our world looks like in 2 dimensions. And it's applying it to this frame by frame, giving us a depth to the actual video that we're watching. If you're hoping to add more controls over your video, you don't have to wait any longer. ControlVideo has arrived. A new research paper has given us a tool called ControlVideo. And this new tool will help enhance the fidelity and the temporal consistency of generated video. Fidelity just meaning quality, and temporalness meaning everything moves in time smoothly. There's the 3 key ideas from the paper. One is to create maps on top of the image to give it more information, like where the edges are and how much depth there is in the image, to keep that all consistent. Second is using random frames throughout the video and checking to see if they kind of pair up right with the ones around them, so like a nearest neighbor kind of thing. And the third is to add additional modules that have better training about how motion and time work over videos that it can apply to make sure everything's being created right. Now, ControlVideo is outperforming some of its competitors, and also it's built in a way that will be more plug-in compatible. Now, they point out one of the downsides is that because you have to start with a video, they're unable to add new elements to it, but the elements that do come with the video, we get a lot more control over. For example, this video of a car can be now put into a Vincent van Gogh style. Look at how powerful it is with color changes. You can change this woman's hair color, the dress color, or even change the color of the car. Edge map control will kind of lead the way to eventually being like cropping and framing, which I think will be really powerful. So you can generate some image and say, just stay in on this one character or something like that. Now, the depth map controls are going to be great for that bokeh effect. Depth map is awesome because then you can actually just blur out things in the background, or like maybe do a rack focus from like the foreground to the background. You know, get that more romantic look if you're generating some images for your anniversary. I love the really cinematic look where you make like the foreground or background really blurry, the bokeh effect. That is cool, and that's all being done in post with this technology. Now let's talk about Ebsynth. Not completely AI driven tool, but it's still a video technology that can make a single frame which you paint in a style animated. And I had to point it out because the results are striking and it's free to use. So it was made by this company called Secret Weapon. And first you upload a video that you've already created. It can be live action footage, it can be hand-drawn animations, it can be 3D renderings, and then you select a keyframe and then paint it as needed. You can also use one of the tools like Midjourney to say, put this in Vincent van Gogh style or whatever. And then Ebsyth will look at that frame and apply that same color pattern to the frames before and after it, and you get awesome clips like this. Vimeo, the competitor to YouTube, now are back in the game with a new AI tool. And I will say this looks really useful because if you're the kind of person like me that sometimes stumbles on their ums and ahs and has filler words like, then you can just remove them. When you upload to Vimeo, they make a transcript of the video and they can let you just instantly select all the filler words and just remove them. This could be a great editing workflow for a lot of people. They just talk and talk and talk, they upload the video, and then they just grab big chunks of it and just hit delete. And because AI knows how that video completely is oriented in terms of the text, if you just want the word congratulations, all you gotta do is delete everything after. And there you go, you've trimmed down your entire 45-minute speech to just congratulations. Still work in progress, but you can see where it's going. That's useful. There's a lot of controversy that Marvel has ruined the Secret Invasion. and that's within the first few seconds of watching it. I just thought it was kind of lame. I was like seeing some clips of it on the new app Threads, and I was like, this like looks like something an amateur would do. Where's the Marvel polish? You know, if you're gonna use generative AI, that just like everything's like coming in and out, just like all these sort of wonky, like strung together Midjourney things, Samuel L. Jackson and stuff. But doesn't that just kind of not seem like something Marvel would have done? Like I seriously thought fan made. Like who's this guy with his arm built into the chair? You can't get an animator to clean that up? A Marvel comic artist, Christian Ward, who led the charge saying this is unacceptable. He said, quote, "For Marvel, whose entire empire was built on the work of artists, to do this is disgusting, and I, for one, shan't be watching." So I guess some of this text-to-video stuff kind of looks like shape-shifting aliens. But honestly, Marvel, at least call up Wonder Dynamics, Pika Labs, or at least some kind of an open-source Hugging Face model where you have some levers you can pull on. For the craziest mind-blowing stuff in AI, smash that subscribe button.